In October 1964, in October 1994, at the opening of an international conference on basic research support policy at the National Academy of Sciences in Jerusalem, we were privileged to have Prime Minister Yitzhak Rabin opening the meeting. It was not simple because that was a week when the peace treaty with Jordan was signed. But Prime Minister Rabin considered that as a very important endeavor. And in his opening statement, he said, and I quote, "On behalf of myself and of the government of Israel, I wish to express our profound gratitude to the scientific and academic community of Israel. You have changed and continue to change our lives, improving them, and there is no doubt that you have created a springboard for the creation of unique opportunities for the future." End of quote. Prime Minister Rabin was a very serious person, and very rarely he used lip service. And that really reflected on a deep conviction of the role of the Israeli research system in general and the research universities in particular in shaping the future of the state of Israel. Unfortunately, this is a story from past history. Currently, there is pronounced deterioration of the reciprocal relations between the science and higher education system and the national leadership. And in this context, I would like to attempt to provide a realistic overview for the future of the higher education system in general and the research universities in particular. So this will be an attempt for analysis of a central cornerstone of Israel science policy. Of course, in this audience, I don't have to dwell at length on the central role of the research universities, which constitute one of the main sources of Israel length. The keynotes and keystones of Israel economy rest on high-tech, computers, electronics, communications, and on chemistry and biology. And sorry, Shlomo, in your perceptive presentation, you said something different, but chemistry is not non-practical. Chemical industries, plastics, pharmaceuticals, biotechnology, all provide seminal contributions to Israel economy. And if we shall manage, as all of us hope, to raise and develop nanotechnology, this will be an outcome of high-level chemical research. Research universities are central for the state of Israel in the context of high-tech and chemistry, the two cornerstones, not only of economy, but also of security. However, let's broaden the scope and context. The research universities and the high education system shape the character, value, and image of the state of Israel. Unfortunately, very recently, during the last 4 or 5 years, very worrisome, steady erosion of the system dependence, which endangered the future of Israel's science, were manifest. This involved repeated attempts to force universities to accept open enrollment, political involvement of a past prime minister in public committee charged with setting tuition levels, government decisions to change university enrollment and qualifications, the initiatives of the present education minister to change the composition of the Council on Higher Education, which were discussed at depth in the most perceptive presentation by Zeev, Professor Tadmor. It was a beautiful talk and a very important one. This violated tradition and spirit of the law of high education. And let me say that I had the privilege to be present at a committee of Chief Justice Chaim Cohen, which provided the final touches of the law of high education, and Section 15 of the law is the cornerstone which guarantees long-term academic and institutional freedom, which will ensure, and only this will ensure, high quality science. On the everyday's life, the reform dictated by the government through the budget arrangement law and government decisions, and some pressure on the planning and budget committee, violates this central framework. There are some other worrisome aspects compromising the position of the Planning and Budgetary Committee, and I know, Professor Grossman, it's a very difficult, thankless, and most important endeavor that you and your colleagues are undertaking. However, making and introducing a new mechanism for approving the decisions of the PBC by the Government Budget Division is extremely risky and dangerous for the future. And we are looking on long-term developments. Politicians think in terms of years. We are thinking in terms of decades. The Israeli science policy regarding the research universities established a system where the fundamental basic research is conducted at the research universities rather than in the research institution, the autonomy and independence of the university system, the functional, structural, budgetary differentiation between the research universities and higher education institutions, a pillar stone which unfortunately now is being turned over, and most significant is the role of the Planning and Budgeting Committee as an independent buffer between universities and the government. And in light of the dangerous development, the Bashar Committee, which is a public, non-voluntary organization led by Zeev Tadmor and Hanoch Gutfreund, which is involved in Academy for Society, considered that the compromise of the independence of Israeli university and Israeli science will have disastrous consequences for the Israel society and for the future of the state of Israel. And from this point of view of the Academy for Society, not the Academy for the Academy, a committee was established to look into the recommendations concerning values, principles, trends of development of the high university system and the research university. The threefold purpose of the report of the Bashar Committee were to present and discuss development trends in the higher education system, to identify warning signs and red lines in the promotion of hazardous current processes, and to propose policy guidelines for the future while safeguarding the accomplishments and achievements of the past. Our high education system consists of 55 institutions. It's a diversified system, as we have heard from the perceptive review of the chairman of the Planning and Budget Committee. The cautious expansion of the system, while withstanding political pressure and avoiding mediocrization of the system, is crucial and essential. I remember a discussion between a government minister of health years ago and the chairman of the University Grants Committee, who is sitting here, and the government minister said, would you open a new school of pharmacy at one of the universities? And the chairman said, no, we discussed this matter, and it's not necessary and inappropriate. The government minister was not very happy about that. But this is the spirit and the tradition which we must perpetuate and convey. In this context, the independence of the national controlled mechanisms, the Council of Higher Education and the Planning and Budget Committee, are central and crucial. In the report of the Bashar Committee, red lines which must not be crossed were formulated. The first one pertains to avoiding politicization of the higher education system and safeguarding the independence from inappropriate political intervention. Second, guaranteeing public support for the universities by public leadership in Israel and throughout the Jewish world. And third, perhaps extremely important and most significant, is to preserve the continuing central role of the academic faculty regarding the university academic matters. And let me state that I am extremely concerned, and so are my colleagues, that the research university is at risk. I have summarized here the 10 commandments for the goals of the research universities. And in addition to the Humboldtian concepts of promoting human knowledge, education, and today we talk about training, leadership. The dissemination of knowledge is extremely important. This involves now in the modern university the creation and transfer of modern technology and enable society to implement such technologies. In the future, in the world of biotechnology and nanotechnology, start-up companies will emerge not from industry, but from the university system, and that requires major changes. In the state of Israel, where we based our values on the cultural heritage, the preserving and development of national cultural treasures and values is extremely important. And in the context of values, safeguarding democracy is crucial. Finally, for the state of Israel, the 10th commandment talks about the relationship with the Jewish world, which is unique for the Israeli system. We heard during the last few years that the university Israeli system, whether it's a success or a failure. So let me say at the onset, not talking about numbers to quantify scientific achievements, but talking about singular points, that the award of the Nobel Prize in Chemistry to our colleagues is a seminal event for science and for Israeli science, and a very proper recognition for the scientific accomplishment throughout the time period of 35 years. It did not happen within 2 or 3 years. And this is what we have to bring up and to emphasize. If you rank accomplishments of different fields, we are doing extremely well in computer, chemistry, astrophysics, economics, well, all the members of the academic community know it. Material science is #1 in the world, which is remarkable. The only cartoon I want to show you is input versus output. The citation intensity versus the wealth intensity. How much do we invest? Israel occupies a very occupies a very singular point, an extremely high output for a modest input. I'm not calling for increasing of budgets. I'm calling for optimization of budgets. And when we talk about accomplishments from agriculture to the defense establishment to future-oriented technologies and to values, the outstanding legal system, all our accomplishments in liberal art, Jewish studies, economics, social science, and archaeology originated from the university. Mr. Chairman, distinguished guests, we are not outstanding yet, but we are very good, and we have to preserve, defend, and maintain this quality. Talking about technology, the Israeli Silicon Valley is tremendously impressive, ranked 4 in the world. So when we look on this list, we should ask, is the price of success too high? So let me try to quantify matters in a very brief way. The 7 research universities in Israel with 112,000 students up to last month, I hope the number is accurate, and with their budget of 1.4 billion, out of which about 900 million US dollars comes from the Israeli government. This is expenditure of 12,500 US dollars per student. This expenditure is extremely modest compared to American universities, public universities like the University of Michigan with 30,000. Of course, the private institutions are in a different orders of magnitude. But looking on European system, the ETH in Zurich, Oxford University, so they are for 3 to 5 times larger. Of course, there are some smaller British universities with comparable result, comparable investment. However, I would not like to use them as a standard. So there was a fascinating phenomena and very worrisome. The government hoped to improve alleged inefficiency by imposing a strong and centralized administrative structure at the universities, and concurrently, during the last 4 years, a budgetary cut of 20% was imposed on the system. In the UK, under the leadership of Prime Minister Margaret Thatcher, the reduction of the university budgets have been 2% annually, and all our friends were saying that this is an unbearable catastrophe. So, even without the cutbacks, the universities could not attain their achievements without contributions from the Jewish world. And now came a government plan which asked the universities to impose a new administrative system which will reduce drastically the contributions from the Jewish world, because the Board of Governors has been really recommended to be reduced in its efficiency. The academic faculty, which has also to be criticized, and if the chairman will let me, we shall get to that in a minute, feels that it is deprived in the involvement in the university. Concurrently, the quality is eroded by the budget cuts. The university independence, which violates the law, is a long-term danger. A strict, uniform, inappropriate administrative structure is imposed. And then we hear that recent decisions of the Committee on Higher Education on the establishment of research colleges. I still have 5 minutes. Yeah, of course. Erodes the national research infrastructure. Well, when economists discusses matters with a theoretical chemist, they reach the same conclusion. And let me just say that the issue of research colleges is extremely worrisome. The college system in Israel provides an extremely important contribution and plays a central social role. However, there must be differentiation in policy and funding between the colleges and the research universities, which play and fulfill different goals, are involved in different missions, and are characterized and should be characterized by different structure and function. So I will not allude to the criticism of the research of the government plan, but I would like to point out that while the Israeli government may be the guilty party, it is not the only one. The academic faculty organizations used in a very inappropriate way the academic senate for implementation of salary demands, and that really brought up the image of our university faculty as professional organization. When very perceptive report of the Maltz committee that they have alluded to what came out in the year 2000, the university did not address this report and did not consider the importance of adjusting to changes, and these are huge changes in the system, but of course protecting norms and values. So if you ask me, is everything in order with the university system? Of course not, but we should deal with genuine problems and not with virtual problems as the government has done. We must formulate a new charter concerning the structure of the system, which will be safeguarded both excellence and access. The University of California, the chairman of the PBC, alluded to. When the University Planning and Grants Committee was established in 1974, there was a national committee, the Shalom Committee, which formulated the rules of the game. We have to look on a revival of a new committee. And with all due respect, they have not Vera and Vatat. It should be a national committee of independence. We must avoid tendency to establish public institutions on the basis of ideological, ethnic, or local principles. That's important. It is imperative to guarantee the system's autonomy. We must establish new frameworks of activities of the research universities, which are really an outcome of the changing scientific technological world. Serious public debate on financial method and scope of Israel funding, the differentiation between research universities and colleges is crucial. The searching for long-term alternative to donations from abroad, which was heard, is extremely important. The examination of methods used to finance public institutions is extremely important. And the funds have to be channeled to support students rather than institutions, and fund research rather than researchers on the competitive basis. The interinstitutional cooperation is extremely important. We are a too small country to have 6 institutes for every modern field. And as far as the faculty is concerned, within the framework of the academic autonomy, promotion of code of conduct and institutional commitments is crucial. Correcting the underrepresentation of the entire sectors of population in our university. Removing unnecessary obstacles, preventing mobility between colleges and universities. And last but not least, restoring the phase between science and higher education system in on the national level. So let me say that I have been rather pessimistic. And in a report that the Bashar Committee has published, we alluded to the erosion of the scientific technological strengths of Israel from bottom up, from the low level of science education in our school system up to the budgetary extreme difficulties facing the research universities. And we wrote that the severe damage inflicted on the higher education system and the research university constitutes a very grave danger, not only to the country's economy, society, security, and status as a progressive country, but extends to the very existence of the State of Israel. However, this cup is also half full. And the great accomplishment of the award of the Nobel Prize in Chemistry to two outstanding Israeli scientists, Professor Abraham Hershko and Aaron Jortner from the Technion, marks the highest recognition of Israeli science on the international level. And it's imperative to strive to maintain, enhance, and develop future seminal contributions of Israeli science and higher education to science, technology, society, and culture. Thank you very much.